الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، أما بعد. قال تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Respected brothers, elders and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sure we all thought about this world, that it would be a far better place if everyone was more caring, less selfish, and more compassionate. Wouldn't the world be a far better place today if everybody embodied these characteristics? And that we cared for each other, we went out of our way for one another, and others went out of their way for us. These are from the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These were the teachings that he embodied. These were the teachings that he decimated. Today we live in a global village, and we see what's happening in the entire world. 9 million people die every year of hunger. Every single year, 9 million people die. And a child passes away from hunger. 1, 2, and 3. Another child just passed away from hunger. 1, 2, and 3. Another child just passed away from hunger. Every 3 seconds, a child passes away because of hunger. And this world that we live in is a global village. And just imagine what would be going through the mind of the mother of this child. She can see that man has reached the moon, and they have used submarines to scrape the bottom of the ocean. But humanity does not care enough to even give one morsel of food to her child to keep it alive. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentions, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. That none of you can be a true believer until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And the most easiest interpretation of this hadith is that you treat others like you yourself want to be treated. You care for other people like you want to be cared for. You look out for other people the way you would like your loved ones to be looked out for. None of you can be a true believer. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is teaching us. That none of us can be a true believer till we love for our brothers what we love for ourselves. And these were the teachings that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the companions. And he made them rich, not necessarily financially rich, but he gave them this true richness of the deen. He gave them this true richness of the soul. That the people, but today we have people that they're so poor. The only thing that they actually have is money. They have no character. They have no character. They have no loved ones. But the only thing that they possess is this materialistic wealth. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the true richness in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the richness of the deen, is the richness of the soul. And this is what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. Imagine 9 million people die out of poverty, out of hunger every single year. People died, 1 million people died out of COVID, and they had the entire world on a lockdown. But when a problem attacks the untouchables or people who don't have a voice in the community, it's not really an issue to the general public. But when it threatens the higher class people, then that's when the entire world goes in a lockdown. In the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, there was no mass communication. They did not live in a global village. But in the Muslim part of the world, if an individual was to die because of hunger, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he would take diya. We know diya is blood money. He would take diya from all the Muslims in that community if this individual died because of hunger. Because it was a responsibility of every individual to look out for one another. These are the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we should embody in our day-to-day lives. These teachings are the superlative teachings and amazing teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which once upon a time that the people he was living amongst were considered barbarians, which he turned them into people who would look out for one another. They would look out for each other more than they would be more considerate for others than themselves. Once a visitor came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, I have journeyed from a very far place, and I'm very hungry and I have nothing to eat." What does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? He sends a messenger to his house. He says, "Go find out what I have at home." He goes to the first wife's house, and he finds out that there's nothing but water in the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he sends him to the second wife's house. He find out what they have over there. There's nothing but water in that house as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he turns to the companions and he says, "Who amongst you is willing to take my guest home tonight?" Then Abu Talha Al-Ansari, he gets up and he says, "Ya Rasulullah, I will host him for tonight." Abu Talha, he goes home and he asks his wife, "What do we have at home?" She said, "The food that we have is only enough for our children." So Abu Talha says, "Put the children to sleep hungry." And then she said, even though we have that food, but it's not going to be enough for all of us, me, you, and the guests. He said, "It's okay. When you bring the food out, set the food on the table, on the mat, on the dinner mat. And as you're going, knock the lantern a little bit so that the light becomes dim. And make it seem that you're still fixing the light, and let the guests continue to eat and make it seem like we're eating with him as well." And the next morning, Abu Talha goes to the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the situation to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is when this ayah was revealed. يُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَوْ كَانُوا بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. That they give preference to others over themselves, even if they themselves are in need. Nobody is telling us to go hungry. Nobody is telling you or me to go hungry, go to sleep hungry. But let's embody some of this compassion that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not only bring these teachings so that they can be documented in books and someone can come up here every Friday and inspire the majma', but these teachings are what we should embody in our day-to-day lives. And never think to yourself that, the little act of compassion I do, a small smile I give my brother, a kind word I share with someone is too small of an act. Don't shy away from that, because we know that no act of kindness can go unscaled in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That woman who didn't have such a good profession. She was considered a loose woman in society. What did she do? She gave a thirsty dog water to drink, and what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all her sins, whatever she did in the past, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entered her into Jannah. Once in the home of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a mother and two daughters came, and at that time Aisha radiallahu anha was home. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not home. And she knocked on the door of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she said, "We're poor, we're beggars, we have nothing. Can you please give us something?" At that time, Aisha radiallahu anha, she only had 3 dates at home. So what she does is she gives 1 date to one daughter, she gives the other date to the mother, and she gives the 3rd date to the other daughter. The 2 daughters, they eat their dates, but what the mother does is that she takes the dates and she splits it in half and she gives it to one daughter and she gives the other to the other daughter. Whenever we read this hadith, before going on to that point, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came home, he asked Aisha radiallahu anha, "Did anybody come home whilst I was gone?" She says, "Yeah, a mother came and 2 daughters," and she related the situation that took place. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Jannah wajib upon the mother. In another narration, it comes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freed her from the fire of hell. And whenever we read this hadith, it makes me realize that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it wajib upon all of our mothers for the sacrifices that they went through when we were growing up. So never regard any action light in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a narration where an individual was walking a path and he seen a log which would cause people a problem if they were to cross this path. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam seen this individual in Jannah, and he asks the malaika, like, "Why is this individual in Jannah?" They said that he was walking through a path and he cared for the people and he was so worried for them that he removed this log out of the path, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved this action so much that he entered him into Jannah, and he was granted with the pleasures of Jannah. We see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Zilzala, he says, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. If we were to do even an atom's worth of khair in this dunya, if we were to do an atom's worth of khair of this dunya, in this dunya, we would see it on the Day of Judgment. If we were to make somebody smile, if we were to make somebody happy, we will see this on the Day of Judgment. And this is why, my brothers and sisters, even if we don't have any money to offer, we still have something to offer. That is our kindness and our compassion. Not everybody has money, but what we can still do is give sadaqah through smiling to one another, making one another feel better, being kind to our neighbors, being kind to our parents. You know, this one thing I heard a sheikh say before, like, if we forget the ihsan, if we forget the favor of our parents, then we're not good people. We should remember the ihsan that our parents had upon us when we were growing up, the troubles that we put them through. You know, being kind to our parents is a form of sadaqah as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and give us the ability to act upon what has been said. And we know that Hira is doing such a good program of Hira compassion. And inshallah, if anybody would like to take part in that, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward every one of you guys immensely. Any way we can take part of that, you can either reach out to Brother Hamza or reach out to Hafiz Saad or one of the brothers that are in charge. Inshallah, they'll navigate you to the best place in order to help out. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillah.